ASMR. Tonight we are going to be ripping up boxes and talking a little bit more about Guyana since several people have requested that I do that. So the first thing I would say is that I'm only giving my personal experience, and I didn't have a typical personal experience because of the conditions and stuff under which I ended up in Guyana. So I met this guy and we dated for about 2 years, and he had asked me to marry him and I had said yes, and we were supposed to get married at Christmas in New York, about 5 days before we were supposed to do that. There was a knock on the door. I was braiding his hair. He was Desi Guyanese, and he just really liked the look of box braids, so I was giving him braids, and plus he had this thought in his head that somehow braiding it would make his hair grow faster. So there's a knock at the door, and we had a golden retriever, and he started going nuts because, there was a knock at the door. So he went to let the golden retriever out. His name was Bandit. And I answered the door, and it was 2 ICE agents, and they held up a picture of him and asked if I had seen him. And before I could even process what they were asking me and say anything, I started to speak, and he came out from he opened the door wider because he had gotten back from letting the dog in, and they saw him and they pushed right past me and had him in cuffs. And my first thought, because I was really young, I was 19, 20. I think I was 21. But, so they pushed past me, have him in cuffs, and so I'm young. My first thought was, I'm gonna call my mom, and they wouldn't let was like here legally. And so I kept thinking like, oh, it's some kind of mistake or so, you guys are probably seeing all the red flags that I didn't see. But I ended up flying to New York and living in Jamaica, Queens with his parents for like months because they kept saying like, oh, they're gonna deport him quick. And like literally months were dragging on and they took him far enough away that like I couldn't see him or anything. I got to visit him once and they had him in jail in an orange jumpsuit and there were signs everywhere that said like, it's not our fault if you get tuberculosis while you're here. And I was just like, oh my god. And then like this like place that they had him at like started showing up in the news because they literally like just forgot they had immigrants for years or like lost them. So, you know, I'm just absolutely terrified for him. So finally, they take him back to Guyana and they made like a big production of it. Like he had hand and ankle shackles and like they just did it kind of inhumanely in my opinion, allegedly. We all have to say that now. But they finally send him to Guyana. I end up joining him there. His dad especially did like a lot of prepping and like teaching me how to sound like I was from Guyana, but I promise you I never truly sounded like I was from Guyana. So essentially he was deported, and the way it was explained to me by him see how it went or something. I don't know. I don't handle the cover stories. I don't answer questions because I just don't have that like ability to lie well. We were staying with his sister and her husband while we were there. And they were very like wealthy. They owned like a road company and did I think 90% of the roads for like all of Guyana. And so I'm in Guyana with someone who was deported, which we had to keep a secret. I'm not good at secrets, and we're like staying with this wealthy family, which like automatically makes me a huge target. It's not exactly like I blend in, you know. I grew up in northern Michigan, and so we did not have cultural diversity. I like always was very interested in other cultures and like learning all of the customs and belief systems and all of that. But like I didn't have any first-hand knowledge. I could probably count on one hand how many people I know who live here who are people of color. And like that some of them aren't even people like I know well. It would be like, you know, my mom worked with a lady. But so my experience was very different than most people's experience would be. So I just don't want anyone to come after me and say that like I'm trying to paint the country anyway or anything, or the people. Like I'm just giving my experience, and I just really wanted to like say that before I delve more into the Guyana stuff, because I did go through some intense stuff because of all of these special circumstances. And so most people going there would not be put in the situations I was put in. Sorry, the computer made a noise. But they wouldn't be put in the situations I was put in, or, you know, go through any of the stuff that geography is like my worst thing. He was from East Berbice quarantine, and apparently he had a house there, but they didn't feel like I would be safe or like I would like it. And there were things I loved about Guyana, and there were things like I hated. Plus, I had dumb. I'm trying to think how to say it. Dumb, sheltered, like white girl views, or expectations, or hopes. Like, first of all, I had taken like 6 years of Spanish, and I was going to South America. I went to one of the non-Spanish speaking countries. Like, that in and of itself just sucked. I don't know what I was prepping for, but I was hoping that it would pay off. So I kind of was hopeful that since there's rainforest in Guyana, there would be monkeys. Like, I thought if you were anywhere near a rainforest, there were monkeys. This is some good crinkly paper. So I was hopeful there would be monkeys. There were not. Like, I was hoping. It sounds so dumb. Like, looking back. Like, I fully thought I was grown, and now I can clearly see I was not. Because my thought pattern at that time was, like, if there were monkeys, I would be like a Disney princess and befriend, like, the local neighborhood monkey, and we would just, like, hang out all the time. I can't even defend myself. Clearly, I was not centered in reality. So no monkeys. There were lots of parrots though, which was cool. I got to learn the actual color of some fruit. We had like a pomegranate tree in our yard, and shocked me is, like, I was talking to the nanny and the maid one day. Yeah, that's how, like, well-to-do they were. That made me a target. And we lived in, like, a palace. It was awesome. I totally miss it. Like, spiral staircase, balcony inside, like, my bedroom was probably the size of my whole apartment now, with like a big jacuzzi tub, and like, it was just huge and magnificent. So I'm talking to the maid and the nanny, and the nanny's brother was always there. His name was Terrence. And I learned a lot from Terrence. But none of them had ever had a strawberry. And I'm like trying to make this make sense in my like sheltered worldview, because I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're closer to Mexico than I am in northern Michigan. How have you, and like, wouldn't this be the perfect climate for growing strawberries? It kind of seemed like it. So, I just really struggled with like wrapping my brain around that. They called apples ice apples. There were some things that I tried my best, not knowing anything about the culture. So like, I was overly willing to learn and like help and, you know, just really live this life while I was there. Because I figured like, A, it would help me understand him better. And like, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely loved the like Indian clothes, the saris, and I never got a salwar, I think, maybe one of the terms. Loved that part. But like, we were preparing food one day, and like, they have, you know, like traditions and stuff where you can't prepare like foods, especially for like religious ceremonies, during like your menstrual cycle. And half the time I didn't know like if what we were cutting up was a vegetable or a fruit. Like, some of them freaked me out because like when you would cut them open, they looked like they were bleeding. Like, just lots of stuff like that. But I just sometimes was not useful in any way, shape, or form. They do a lot of cooking over an open fire, and you know, I he was trying to see if he could get me to do. Like, I would cook separately for myself. And so one day he asked if he could try it because it looked good. And I was like, of course, you know, like, I'm living in your house. The least that's the least I can do. And so the next day, he ordered like a goat and mutton. And he made this dish. And he was like, listen, I tasted your food. Like, I'm gonna be offended if you don't eat my food. And like, everything was in there. Like, I appreciate